We'd like to welcome everyone this evening to the Richmond Planning and Zoning Commissioner meeting. Clerk, would call the roll, please.
Sure. Commissioner Shue?
Here.
Commissioner Francis?
Here.
Commissioner Short?
Here.
Commissioner Miller?
Here.
Commissioner Perkins?
Here.
Commissioner Miles?
Here.
Commissioner Estelle?
Here. If all the commissioners had time enough to read the minutes from the last meeting, I'd like to get approval for meeting of July the 31st, 2024.
Okay. I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes of July 31st, 2024.
Second.
Yeah, everybody just a reminder if you could pull your mics forward or just make sure you speak into them because it's harder to hear otherwise.
She wasn't there, was she?
Oh,
No, she wasn't.
No, she wasn't,
Were you
but
there then? Okay.
I
Yep,
wasn't
just-
at the planning.
Planning thing. Okay, so
yeah,
she can't.
just asking you to pull the mics forward or make sure you speak into them. Commissioner Shue?
Yes.
Commissioner Francis?
Yes.
Commissioner Short?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Miles?
Yes.
Commissioner Estelle?
Yes. Next on the agenda is the zone map amendment for Hampton 210 LLC property located at Old Town Branch Road and Congleton Lane, currently zone AG, proposal zone R1C and R2. Mr. Worley? Just before you start, I'd like to say too that this is a public hearing, so those that oppose it and those that are for it will have time to speak. And I will ask if everybody be courteous to whoever one that's speaking and try not to repeat what someone else has said. I know it's hard to do, but if we can do that, we appreciate it.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Preston Worley on behalf of the applicant, Hampton 210, and which is a subsidiary of Lone Tree Developers and out of Utah, the national home builder. And I want to introduce here for you all, we have with them Jenny Nelson and Jameis O'Brien, the principals. Are here, and we'll bring them up to speak. They've come to join us tonight from Utah, just like they were here with us at the work session. A lot that we'll talk about tonight will be a rehash, of course, of things that we've talked about in the initial hearing and then at the work session and then again tonight. So I'll try to be brief, but this being a public hearing, I will need to make sure that all of the information's in the record that needs to be, but I'll be as brief as possible. So for the record, I know that Mr. Stone has evidence of the sign that was posted on the property since your department arranged for that, and then I have the notice in the Richmond Register. So, again, this is property that is currently zoned agriculture on Hampton Way, about 207 acres, give or take. This is really in West Richmond and kind of that corridor. This is the very end of the annexed area of the city going into the county. But it's mostly county land except for the north onto Hampton Way, where it abuts other land. It also property that you all have recently rezoned, same ownership group from B3 to R2. Is a buffer on this property. So this property's been annexed into the city for some time. And at that time, the legal designation was given that it was urban in nature and ready for development when it was annexed into the city. And so now what is that urban nature and what is that development? What should it be? And that's where we are here. And we would propose to you that an R1C and an R2 designation combination would be the best. Tyler, if you would go to the first slide. You'll remember this in the public hearing early on this summer, late spring. This was the presentation, or this was the proposal that was put forward. And again, I guess I should take a step back, as you all know, but for everybody's benefit, all of the things shown up here, other than just true zoning, are conceptual. They're shown to you in a way so that we understand what the development is supposed to be. But today, all we're asking for is a zone change designation, and all of the detail of what things look like will ultimately be determined by you at a development plan and preliminary plat stage should you approve the zoning. So this was the initial proposal concept that came forward. That also was R1C and R2, but you can see it was not quite as thoughtfully laid out and was more dense. That's 513 units shown there. You're going to see a difference in the very next slide, which is our current concept that was created in taking into consideration many of the concerns from the community and the discussion that was had with the Planning Commission at that original hearing, and then we've taken those considerations into and tried to add them here. And you'll see here that this proposal is a 455 unit proposal. Now, the actual number of units that will go into a development is ultimately approved by you all in the development plan phase and determines, all of the engineering, how everything will lay out. This is conceptual, but the intent of showing you this is to show that Lone Tree has given a lot of thought of how to make this as dense as it needs to be to make it affordable, but then also as little dense as it can be to respect the area and the concerns about traffic, which we'll get into in a little bit. Just for comparison, though, I want to let us know there has been a lot of discussion about R1A, your least dense residential zone, least dense zone you have. At 207 acres, without any consideration to reducing density voluntarily, that's 745 units. R1C and R2, without any consideration of reducing density, is 1,056 units. So you can see what your ordinance allows for, and actually the reason it allows for that is calling for more housing and more density. But we've got some issues that we have to be cognizant of about with traffic, that the neighbors and you all raise concerns. So that shows that in order to make this work, and what you'll see in a development plan phase, this density is going to have to be significantly lower than the ordinance would otherwise allow. And I think when we get into our discussion about the traffic and the traffic study that we have Mr. Halani here, you'll see how using this type of number of units and factoring in the improvements that the state is going to make over the next few years, that this will work in the area. It's a matter of timing. So again, I'll tell you a little bit more about, before I get into the nuts and bolts of this, a little bit more about the developer that you're working with, and that will be a neighbor to these folks. Again, Lone Tree Development. We've got Jameis and Jenny here. They're based in Utah. They have several developments throughout the country. They are a middle-income housing developer. They shoot for that missing middle housing that is so hard to find in most communities. And that price point is really what we need in Richmond. And this is, they are a home ownership model. There are a lot of developers that intend to have more rental communities, and you can't stop investors from buying homes and renting them, but Lone Tree's model is to hopefully have these all be home ownership. And so let me show you a little bit about a concept of what they may look like. This is, if you go to Lone Tree's website, this is what they've put up as, and by the way, the packets I gave you, this is just stuff for you all to go along with. This is a conceptual drawing. This is actually a schematic of the type of homes that they would look to build in this Hampton Way type subdivision. Tyler, you go to the next one. This is one of their models that they may use. Next, please. This is a model that they may use that they're kicking around with their architects. And then the next one. This is a model. And then if you show the very next one, when you talk about the R2 development, this is as built in one of their Washington State properties. This is a townhouse idea that comes from would be in the R2. Your R2 zone has is duplex, but also includes townhouses, which would be 3 or more intact. And so this is actually one of their as-built communities. I think you can see a child's bike laid down over there. So I've just got somebody riding up and down the street there. You can go to the next one, Tyler. So, actually, if you go back to the very second one, then we'll come to our plat. So, justification for the zone change. Agriculture is inherently an inappropriate zone inside the city limits. When it's annexed, the legal justification for annexation is that it's deemed urban in nature and ready to develop. So agriculture is inherently an inappropriate zone. When you're looking at a zone change, you could say either it's in agreement with your comprehensive plan or the current zone is inappropriate and the proposed zone is more appropriate. I think it's both standards here. I think housing of affordable nature, of different housing types, are all called for in your comprehensive plan. Your future land use map calls for this to be residential, actually single-family residential. But then also, I think, so it meets in agreement with your comprehensive plan. And then I would put to you that the current zoning of agriculture is inappropriate, and this zoning would be more appropriate. There's the legal justification. Now when we talk about what will this look like, you have two entrances potentially onto Hampton Way. Again, this all comes back to you in a development plan phase. You can see from this rendering compared to the other one, there is more green space buffering, shorter lots and more green space buffering all around to give that space from the existing neighbors. And then what used to be just one designated lot to protect an existing cemetery is now a full public green space. And that letter that popped up there, I'll talk about that in just a minute, about the use of the cemetery green space there. So again, one thing I want to highlight before we get into the traffic study stuff, today we're just asking for a zone. Then we have to come back to you after all the engineering is done and show you what an actual platted out, fully engineered subdivision in each phase would look like. And we have to show you all phases up front, and then you would get to approve each phase one at a time. And each time, if you have any concerns about the things we're going to talk about with traffic, we have to address those with you at that time. So this is a long process. This is just the first step. But the cemetery area, Tyler, do you have a pointer or something you can just use your cursor? Thanks, Kevin. Actually, over a little bit. That area. Right in there, there is an old cemetery, and if the letter that popped up there was a letter from the family to Miss Sharon Graves that reflects what their wishes would be of how that cemetery would be handled, and this is in conjunction with conversations that Jenny has had and from Lone Tree. So we've talked about that before in various different places in the community, but this is a list of the wishes of the family that Lone Tree is willing to do, and accordingly redeveloped this property. So I want to get into the nuts and bolts of the traffic study, but just real quick, if I could bring up Jameis and Jenny and Sharon and just share a little bit about their vision for this project. And then I would like for Sharon, if she could share some of the work they're already doing in Richmond to try to make this project an integral part of the community. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves and tell a little bit about Lone Tree and your vision for the property, and then we'll get Sharon to talk about the work you've been doing. So.
Commissioners, nice to see you again.
See you.
Jameis O'Brien, I'm the founder and primary principal of Lone Tree. And just a little history for everybody. We've really tried to look at the U.S. and attack affordable housing. We feel like home ownership to our kids, and then not only our kids, the first-time home buyers, but the last-time home buyers that need to downsize and need less to take care of are severely lacking in the United States. And so that's what we do. And we do it from, like Preston said, we have projects in Washington State, Des Moines, Iowa, Elizabethtown, your next-door neighbor here, did I say Des Moines, and others. So that's really who we are and why our business exists, is to really try to promote home ownership to those who should be able to afford it, right? The first-time families that are starting to. So it's nice to be here. I'll say one last thing. It's really not fair that Jenny is the brains and the looks, but we'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Jenny Nelson, and I run the land and development portion of the company. And what I do with the company is kind of why we're here today, is I work with people within the community, like Sharon and other people that we've plugged in with the community, to find out what their needs are with the economic development, with the jobs that are coming in, with the needs on the workforce level, finding out what they can afford, finding out what the roadblocks are, and working backwards in a way that we can design a community that fits their needs but is sensitive to the existing needs. And so my hope on my end of the things is to create a concept and bring it to present to you as a city and work back and forth together, which everyone that we've talked to so far has been so great to give us feedback and to work with us so that we can come to a mutual win-win on both sides, something that serves the community and is an asset to your community for, like James said, for those people that are trying to get into the home market on the front side or on the downside side, but also be a win on our side as well as we kind of try to take this vision throughout the country. So thanks.
I'm Sharon Graves, president of the Madison County Historical Society, and I was actually working with this property long before they bought it. The family who has the cemetery there, the Clark family, they are spread out across the United States, and so they got in touch with the Historical Society as far as locating that cemetery, which we did. We had no luck with the previous owner as to what we could do to preserve that cemetery. And just a few months ago, out of the blue, Jenny got in contact with Historical Society, wanting to know what she could do, how she could contact the descendants. I have done that. I've been the go-between between them, so I'm very happy with their plan for the cemetery. The descendants have asked 12 things to be done, and they've agreed to do all 12, which includes putting a fence around the cemetery, preserving it, fixing the stones. There is also a frame house there that is around 2 log cabins. One log cabin they have graciously given to the city of Richmond, which is going to go in the new park. The other log cabin, the gentleman I met with him today is going to take it down, and it'll probably be going back in this property here as some sort of showcase.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And wanted to let you all have a sense of who these developers are and what they're already doing with this property, because they already are property owners in the community. This is not a situation where they are only going to buy it if you approve. They're already here, and they're doing this. They're doing this work. So now, again, trying to keep as brief as possible. One of the biggest topics in the original hearing on this was traffic. And it is for any zone change, of course, but we will all have to recognize that Barnes Mill Road and the issues on the 87 Exchange in that area and all of the West Richmond development, there's significant traffic. There's already significant traffic that is not anybody's fault in this room, and any new development will, of course, affect traffic. No doubt about it. What I think Mr. Halani is going to tell you and show you in this traffic study that he can go through is that this property, properly phased, this development, in conjunction particularly with the work planned by the state for improvements on Barnes Mill Road and the 87 exit, will have no material impact to the safety and of the roadway. And so, and the movement of traffic. And I think you're going to see Mr. Alani's been doing this a long time. His associate that worked with him on this was a traffic engineer. Has been a traffic engineer since the early 80s. They've used the counts from the state. They've done their own traffic counts, and they've taken information that the state had from our planning departments and our traffic folks. And they've distilled this into, I think, a presentation that makes a lot of sense that I hope will be educational for everybody here. So I'll give this to Mr. Halani from Vision Engineering.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Jihad Halani with Vision Engineering. Our address is 128 East Reno Road, Lexington, Kentucky, 40517. So basically on this traffic study based on last public hearing that was done, I understand there was a lot of traffic concern. So the way we approach this project is that the new layout has 455 total units. So it's not going to be totally developed at one phase. So the project we anticipate to be divided to three phases. Phase 1 would be complete in 2030, where we have 80 single-family home and 65 townhouses. Phase 2 will be total of 160, which is additional 80, will be done in 2035. And we add 75 townhouses in Phase 2. And Phase 3 will be approximately in 2040, with a total single-family unit of 240 and 215 townhouses. And so the project, we kind of divided in that phases just to work with the timing that the Transportation Cabinet anticipate to finish their work on Barnes Mill Road. And based on Phase 1 in 2030, so we have on the second table, you see the trip generation based on every designation based on the ITE manual for 80 single family, 65 townhouses. And then also the table below, it shows when be at 2035 was 160 single family and 135 townhouses. And on the second page, it shows what will be the anticipated trip generation based on the ITE manual for 2040 was total to 240 single family and a total of 215 lots. So, so assuming the zone change goes this year, then we have to come back in front of you for the preliminary plat and construction plans. And then at that time, construction has to start for the infrastructure, roadway, and then after that, the homes start getting built. So we anticipate approximately by 2030 that we're going to have 80 single family and 65 townhouses lot. But at the same talk, looking at the Transportation Cabinet, what they're going to do as improvement along Barnes Mill Road and Goggins Lane and the interchange itself, there's two major projects. There's one project saying, hey, we want a short-term solution by adding left turn on Goggins Lane. And so we'll have one dedicated left and one straight and right turn. And also in 2030, they anticipate that Hampton Inn to be only right in, right out with a closed median. And also in 2030, they anticipate that the ramp to be worked into a single ramp point. And so the traffic study, if you see this table, to kind of looking at for the AM peak hours existing at 2024, we see anticipated delay and level of service for every movement. Starting level of service of A mean like the intersection being best operation, and B, C, and D, and F mean it's basically it's failing. So this is the existing 2024 AM peak hours, and then in development for Phase 1 in 2030, without any of the Transportation Cabinet improvement in place, that will be the level of service impact that the proposed subdivision will have on Barnes Mill Road and associated intersection, which is looking on the left side of the table for Barnes Mill Road and Goggins Lane. That will be intersection number 1. And this is during the AM peak hours. And intersection number 2 will be Barnes Mill Road and Frankie Drive. And intersection number 3 will be Barnes Mill Lane and Hampton Way. Intersection number 4 will be Barnes Mill Road and Emberley. So basically, that's the 4 intersections that we looked into the study. And
if I could remind the commission, in the packet, your executive review, the very last page is a map that has a number for each of those intersections. If it's easier to follow along with a map than with the chart. So.
Yeah, that's exact. So that's basically the 4 intersection, number 1, 2, coming from left to right. Yeah, thank you. So, so basically in 2030, we anticipate that phase one is going to be complete with no roadway improvement done by the Transportation Cabinet. Phase two, we anticipate to be complete in 2035. At that time, the state anticipates their project based on the materials I publish, all this improvement along Barnes Mill Road to be complete in 2029. Even though we did not include this improvement until 2035 for any delays. So 2035 on the table, it shows that the improvement has been placed on Barnes Mill Road, and that's why you can see the level of service has been improved as you're looking at the estimated AM peak hour and AM and PM peak hours. And so in 2035, it shows what's going to be the level of service. In 2040, what's going to be the level of service for all this turning movement along Hampton Way, along Barnes Mill Road with all these different intersections.
John, if I could real quick. And I think you all are following along and have had a chance to see this, but as you know, the letter is the level of service that would be identified by the road, and then the number there is the seconds delay existing versus improved. So if it's a level service C with 26 seconds, then we show that it's a level service C still with 28 seconds after the improvements by the state. So even with the build out. So that's how to follow that along. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I interrupted you again.
Yeah. So one of the movements that has been brought up into the hearing of on page 3 of the exhibit for the PM on Barnes Mill Road and Goggins Lane. It's the eastbound of Barnes Mill Road. It shows a delay of 154 seconds as existing. So the delay by 2030 is going to go up to 163, but with the left turn added by the Transportation Cabinet, that level of service is going to drop to 27 seconds, and for phase 2 and phase 3 of the project. And then as you go, as Mr. Worley mentioned, like on intersection number 1, you see the whole intersection has a level of service of D with 47 seconds. With 2030, the level of service will be D with 49 seconds. Phase 2 will improve because of the improvement on Barnes Mill Road to level of service of B, and on 2040 will be level of service of B as well with 18 seconds. If we go on intersection number 2, the whole intersection has a level of service of B, 20 seconds, with the improvement will be 13 seconds and 13 seconds. And Hampton Way, the whole intersection will be much better intersection just because it's going to be only right in, right out. And the same thing on Amberley Way. And if you don't mind, on the second page, this is basically on the lower page number. Yeah, one more page, please. Yeah, this page here. This page can outline what the Transportation Cabinet are planning for improvement. So they anticipate these two highlighted one. The first highlighted one represent the improvement along Barnes Mill Road itself, the left turn lane and the right in, right out, and raising median along Hampton Way. So they anticipate the design to be complete in 2025 and 2025, and then the right-of-way acquisition and utility relocation to be done in 2027, and the construction to be complete by 2029. So the total project will be almost 14.7 million for improvement along Barnes Mill Road. And the second project is going to be the ramp along I-75, the anticipating design to be complete in 2025. In 2028, they anticipate to have the right-of-way acquisition complete, the utility relocation done, and the construction to be complete by 2029. So the total project is approximately 24.4 million to be done for that interchange. And then on, just to get an idea what kind of the improvement looks like along Barnes Mill Lane and Hampton Way. It's basically on this exhibit here. So this is basically what's going to look like after the transportation cabinet finish the improvement along the roadway. It's going to be kind of closed median, raised median, and no left turn is allowed. It's going to be somebody has to come on the second intersection, make a left, make a U-turn, and come back into Hampton Way.
Ma'am, please, just let him finish.
And then as that sheet shows that this improvement is it's a high priority with, as a long-term solution for that traffic. So basically, this is my conclusion of the traffic study, and if there's any question, I'll be glad to answer it.
And I'll certainly.
Sir, wait, sir. Let him finish.
And so certainly, if the commission has any questions for Mr. Halani, we'll allow, but I think the highlights, and this, again, these renderings and these documents, they are coming from the Transportation Cabinet, and that is the Transportation Cabinet's highway management plan that is published, that they've said that this is the money that they intend to spend to improve this area. Mr. Halani will confirm here, but I know that his counts, along with the numbers taken from the state, already take into consideration all of the other approved projects in West Richmond and this area that you all have approved. So that is part of this analysis. And then you can see again, according to their plan, they intend to have these majority done by 2029. We know how the state government might work, and that's why Mr. Alani's assumptions show them done in 2035. But again, show that that would not be until the second phase of this development. And so with the proper phasing, the safety and use of the street and the traffic flow will not be materially negatively impaired, and in many cases will be improved. So,
Okay.
thank you, John.
Thank you.
So, again, not to make sure we don't take too much time, because I know that the public has a lot that they want to say, and I'm sure you all have questions, and then we'll certainly want the opportunity to respond to additional concerns from the public. But the city needs housing. The city has, while I've stood in front of you and many, many times said that we have plenty of apartments, but we need more, and I still feel that way, I know the city is looking for single-family options, and your comprehensive plan calls for diverse housing types. So townhouse, which is attached single-family, and then R1C, which is detached single-family, bring those affordable options to the city. They're in agreement with your comprehensive plan. All development creates change that can be scary. They can create change that causes traffic. This can be phased in such a way that will not affect traffic negatively. And that phasing, you all have control of this project at every single step. Today is asking for a zone change. Then if that zone change is approved, and the Board of Commissioners also approves that zone change and passes that ordinance, which just last week, they told me they would like to see more single-family home ownership when I was before them. So I think they would pass it with your recommendation. Then we go through the process of coming back and showing you how each particular phase will work so that it's not offensive to these neighbors, it's safe, and it provides the housing that this city needs. So with that, we're going to ask for your approval, and I'll be back to talk to you after rebuttal, for some rebuttal if you'll allow it, Chairman. But any questions for you all before I take a seat, I'll be happy to have them.
I got any questions?
Thank you all very much.
Okay, now we will have questions from the public. We'd like for you to come to the podium, give your name, please, when you come.
Debbie Vescio, 204 Crimson Drive. I guess we were just here 4 months ago when you all made the decision 7-0 to deny the R1C and the R2 due to density. So now 4 months later, we're here for the second time with a concept plan. And so basically requesting the same zone change with a slightly decreased number. Now, a concept plan is not they're not binding. Basically, they're just giving you a decision. and what they kind of would like to do. So basically, if you were to give them approval, they could also go back to the original concept plan they had, or basically work through that. So again, you'd think based on the previous ruling that they would have come back to request a R1A type of zone change. And then the other thing is, why would you be approving something since they have already been approved for R2 on the 50 acres that is now, and now they're asking for more? Let's see, if you approve the zone change, then again, you're giving them approval to put 5.1 houses and 5.1 townhomes on 1 acre. If they decide to sell the property, then you will be giving the new owner the approval to build that 5.1 density single-family homes and 5.1 density townhomes per acre. So if they sell it, so the new neighbor will not have to adhere to these concept plans. Now, I won't go through a bunch of numbers, but I did want to bring up and had questions about the traffic study, and I'm not going to go through, I'll go through. So you mentioned peak hours. So what are the peak hours of the study? On there you have AM peak and PM peak hours. What are those exact hours?
Yeah, you can come up here.
Yeah, when we did the traffic count, we did traffic count during the study, and also we took the traffic count from the Transportation Cabinet. They have the original study, and they have a published study in April, and there was also an amendment or addendum to the study in June of 2024. So the peak hours for the AM was between 7:30 and 8:30, and for the PM between 5:30 and 6:30.
Okay. So, and again, I know you said that, is it based on a 7-day week or a 5-day work week, or?
Yes, ma'am. Usually the traffic count, we do it between between Tuesday and Thursday, just because this is where the regular, normal operation of where the school are on, people are going to work, and this is basically the regular and the heavy volume of traffic.
Okay. And then the other question was, so I get the dates right, because in Richmond, in the summer, we don't have the EKU students, and now we have Eastern back with them driving up wrong way and getting hit like I was today, coming up one-way roads. So anyway, is the time frame, was this in the summer or in the fall? When
Yes, ma'am.
the EKU students?
We did the original one, we did it in April. In March. The state published in April, and then we supplemented in June. But just to get a little bit of traffic background, Barnes Mill Road right now has an average approximately 12,000 car average daily traffic. Our calculation and the Transportation Cabinet anticipated by 2045 to be 22,200 vehicles per day. So they anticipate significant amount of increase. And that's why you see the significant amount of improvement on Barnes Mill Road of reworking the ramp, adding lane, and also our study look into Goggins Lane making left, and that's what we model it to be the most conservative from traffic simulation, but the long term it may be a roundabout with a dual lane of traffic instead of one lane to kind of increase the volume of traffic. So there's a lot of things the Transportation Cabinet has been looked into them, and then we took all this information, whatever recommendation the Transportation came up was in June of 2024, and incorporated in our traffic study, and we added the volume of traffic that will be generated based on phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 into the study, and that's what the number you see on this summary table.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
What I gave you guys was basically, I went through to look at households, number of households and vehicles per household on there, and basically this came from the National Highway Transportation Study. So if you look at phase 1, it's 145 households. With the NH study, basically, the average household has 1.83 cars, so 1.8. So what I'm doing underneath of the first table, for their first phase, there'll be 261 cars in that area, based on 145 households. The second table below is basically there are 295 households with 531 cars. Okay. Next page, full scenario, there's 819 cars. So they keep talking about the improvements that the state's going to do. So if you look at under findings, so we're on this page under findings, it states analysis anticipates KYTC improvements by development year 2035 and include Barnes Mill Road, eastbound left lane, turn lane construction at Goggins Lane and Willis Branch. Barnes Mill Road, KY 876 median construction at Hampton Way that prevents left turns at the intersection and has right in and right out turn only. Existing left lanes entering and exiting the highway, Hampton Way, can accommodate the U-turns. So with the next page, part of that came out of a study that was done. So the next page, it says next steps. And so this came out of the study. And so basically it reads, and I know they gave you the executive summary of it. So basically it reads, the next step following this study for any potential improvements would be phase 1 design, preliminary engineering, and environmental analysis. Further funding will be necessary to advance an improvement to design phase and additional phases of this project are not funded in Kentucky fiscal year 2022 through fiscal year 2028 of the highway plan. So basically, their transportation, their study there, traffic study, is basically they keep saying all these improvements to the roads are going to happen. But there's no money. There's nothing there. And this came from the state. And they left it out. So anyway, so again, there's no funding. You're not going to fix it. The next page, and he had mentioned this was about the 18,500 cars on Goggins Lane and 22,000 on Barnes Mill. The next page they included was basically the page that pulled out the two particular projects they made in yellow. And so basically what the study did, it allowed the state to identify projects that are needed, and it allowed them to budget for this. However, there's no money. And so what the state does, they put this into what's called a 6-year highway plan. This is a 462-page document, and I'm happy to share with you. So each county is basically vying for money. So if you look at this, 462 pages, more. So basically, you have no funding. This is a 462-page book. So who knows if that will ever get built. And again, they base their traffic study basically making it invalid. So again, I think what I'm saying is that I know something's going to be built there, but they should be considering R1A instead of this dense plan. So that's what I'm asking tonight, that you deny the R1C and R2 zone change. And so, if you guys, do you want to see this book? It's kind of heavy. So anyway, so that's basically all I wanted to present, and hopefully we won't, I don't know, we're going to be up here in another 4 months. So, thank you.
Excuse me, Kevin, hadn't, just a minute. Kevin, hadn't something been approved for that?
No, Ms. Fessio is correct. The state does have in their plan, in that 460-some pages, as a plan that the state is considering. Now, as speaking with the traffic engineers for KYTC, they're telling me that this is very close to the top of the page with conversation. But at this time, funding has not been allocated.
Okay.
And again, what I read to you on next steps, that did come from the Kentucky transportation engineers. Thank you.
State your name, please.
Hello, my name's Kenneth Nelson. I live in Old Town Estates, 114 Adams Court. Lived there about 40 years, and appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Can you all hear me? Is there anybody that can't hear me? I know I have difficulty, and I'll speak up as well as I can. My voice is kind of changing, but anyway, I want to thank Debbie Vessio for that very excellent report, and appreciate that. A lot of work went into that, I'm sure, and I'll come back to that in a minute. I want to commend the developers of this project for being concerned about affordable housing and for entry-level housing for young couples that are trying to get started. That's very important. I also commend you for considering the cemeteries that are in existence, giving respect to those people. But I think we need more concern for the people that are living in Old Town Estates right now. I didn't hear a lot of concern expressed about that. Now, I'll be as brief as I can. Last time we had this meeting, we went over and identified most of the major problems, and I thought the group did a great job in identifying that. Traffic, schools not being prepared, runoff water, the impact of that on our neighborhood, access during emergencies, the creek overruns. And as I understand it, there was one family that was having an emergency. The ambulance couldn't even get to the property because of the overflow of the water. And it would be much worse if a lot of houses are built there with roads and parking and other, where they take away the farmland that absorbs water. And also the impact on Lake Will-Green. And last but not most important, from a selfish perspective, the drop in our potential drop in our property values, the people that live there and have lived there for 40 years or longer, or any time. It's when you're in the fourth quarter of life and you're expecting to be able to sell your home for a certain amount of money so that you can go to an assisted living or a nursing home and you get half of what you're planning on. That is a difficult situation for a lot of people. So the problems we identified last time are still there, and thanks to Debbie's presentation on the traffic, that's a much better understanding of that problem than I had. But each one of our people that live in Old Town Estates has a perspective that we need to get captured so that we can present that information to you in more detail. It's just not possible to get it together very quickly. It takes a lot of time. But every one of you has a different story to tell and sees it from a different perspective, and that would help this group make a good decision. I think I commented that a genius can make a terrible decision if he doesn't have all the information, but the average person can make a great decision if he's got all that information. But it's hard work, it takes time, The idea of getting together and throwing ideas out at one meeting, from my perspective, doesn't work very well to arrive at the best decision for the community, the town, and the future, our children and grandchildren. To move to a different topic, I only have two. I don't know all the details about this plan. I don't know all the details about the first proposal, but there's some differences, but as far as the impact, I don't see much different from my perspective. It's still somewhere in the neighborhood of how many cars? 1,000 new cars? 891 ballpark. And it may be that the vision that your company has to build affordable housing for people just doesn't fit this particular piece of property because of all the related circumstances that we have. Limited access. It's just, maybe it doesn't fit. And I think, we need to look at that objectively. I appreciate, your need to have jobs and make money and this sort of thing, but we've got to look at both sides and answer that question. Is this an appropriate plan for this area? The other thing I'm a little uncomfortable with, if I understood correctly, we're looking at a plan that probably won't be the final plan. I would like to see what the final plan looks like generally before I could feel comfortable on moving forward or just let's forget the whole thing. If it's not acceptable to have 1,000 cars there or 800, why do we need to go further? If we can't resolve the road problems, the school problems, the water problems, we need to seriously look at that, I think. I'm not sure where we go from here. That's to be decided by you. And I just think that we don't need to rush into it. I would think we should table it so that we can have a more detailed look at this. But that's my opinion. But thank you very much for your attention.
You want to come here?
Just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, the 6-year plan that Ms. Debbie referred to was between 2022 to 2028. On June 14, 2024, the 6-year plan for 2024 to 2030 outlined the design and construction and all this to be part of the funding that was approved. So this year's 6th plan between 2024 to 30, it outlined these items. The previous 6-year plan between 2022 and 2028, it did not have this project as being on the list. But this one here, it is. If you can put the image over there. It's adopted on June 14. If you can see the corner over there.
Does it include all of the pending projects that are going through in this area? We've got a lot of development.
It includes these 2 projects. I'm not sure about the other ones, but if you look at the top page, what's highlighted, it said this was done in June 14, 2024.
Ms. Perkins, yes, all of the state's traffic numbers come from the small area plan that they just recently did. That includes knowledge of all of the development that's been approved and is ongoing in Richmond.
That has been approved.
So,
Excuse me. I just want to ask about, is the project funded? Are they funded at this time? Or is it we're guessing between 22 and 28, it may not be funded?
So thank you for that, Dr. Miller. So the General Assembly, passes a budget every 2 years. In this past budget, these were not put into the budget, but the 6-year plan is what the Transportation Cabinet will put into their budgets. That's why they do the 6-year plan, and that's why they publish it, and they put that high priority on there. So next year is a budget year. So this was not a budget year. Next year is a budget year with the General Assembly, and that is where, what Mr. Halani's talking about, the 22 plan versus a 24 plan, this is what they have said is this is where they will go get their money. I want to keep in mind, this is a zone change hearing. This is not a development plan or a preliminary plat hearing. If at any point this body believes that the traffic is not coming along the way that it's supposed to, you have the authority to say we won't approve that next phase, or we won't approve the initial phase. Just to even get to coming back to you, we're talking months or a year to get this development plan ready to come back to you. Then we may have more significant guidance about where this is going to be. And your department may know where this is going to be. So developers, planning commissions have to rely on the plans of engineers. And engineers make their plans based on where they see development going. And so if they have published this plan, part of the money may be encumbered already for the design, part of it may be being requested. But the State Highway Traffic Engineer, District 7, a guy named Kelly Baker, one of the smartest engineers you'll ever meet, he has put this out there that this is what he wants the General Assembly to give the Secretary of Transportation to give him.
I guess I don't see where anything's changed from last time we did this 4 months ago a whole lot.
This
If
was
it's
not.
money- If it's not funded, and you know how the government is about funding, so it may be funded, it may not be funded. And I understand your situation, that you want this project done, and it doesn't sound like a bad project, but there's going to have to be some major road changes. So I don't see a lot of change, really. I don't see a lot of difference.
And I respect that, and I don't want to. I know the public still has a lot that they want to say, and so I would try to avoid a back and forth. I would just tell you that the difference is none of this was even considered last time. Now the state has said that they want to get this done, that these are priorities to them. At this time, you've actually been able to go through the traffic study and see that even without this, the first phase does no problem to this community. So, and, Mr. Chairman,
Ma'am,
I
please.
asked for just a little bit
Please.
of. So, now this is out there, the traffic study, when you really get into the details of it, which we weren't able to in that first hearing, we said we had a traffic study, but we didn't go into the details like Mr. Halani did. You see that even the 2030 build-out is not a significant problem, and works. By then, though, hopefully all this is in fruition, and that then allows for the 2035 build-out, the 2040 build-out. Then, somebody said they didn't see any real change for the neighbors. If you look at that design, and again, it's a concept design, it shows significantly more green space that creates a buffer between the existing neighbors and this. And again, we show that concept for as much transparency as possible. That concept may change, but it likely will not because of the topography. That is all built on a ridge line out there, and they're putting the homes along where they can put them without significant engineering. So what they come back to you is going to look significant to that, because I've been in front of you for many, many years, Dr. Miller. If I was with a client and I showed something and I came back and showed you the exact opposite, I know you'd say, what happened? What happened? That's not what you showed me. And so we show that by way of saying, while it may be tweaked a little, that is materially what you will see in a full engineering scope. And then again, a comment was made about what if somebody else buys it, or what if they change their mind. You get to control the development plan. So R1A acreage that was requested is 745 units. This R1C acreage is requested because of the affordability. An R1C lot can be built at $20,000 less than an R1A lot. And that's something that's savings that will be passed on to the ultimate home buyer. But they're still only showing you less than half of the R1C and R2 density that they could do. And if they've put that to you here today, and they've said that they're willing to cap their density, then at whatever point they come back with a preliminary plat, and it doesn't have that cap, which is the appropriate time to cap the density in the development plan phase, as notes on the development plan. If they're putting to you that they are willing to cap that density at that time, and they come to you and then you say, we approved a zone change with the belief that that was going to happen, then what are you're going to deny that. And so I'm putting to you that they will 100% agree to cap density and to build the concept that they're showing, because that's what they have, that's what's available to them, and that's what the traffic will allow.
So, Mr. Worley, if you did all R1A out there, how many could you put?
745 units,
And how many are proposed right now?
455.
Okay. Thank you.
Your 700 number included. Sir. We've got some other people up here. If you want to speak, you're welcome to get in line and speak.
I was kind of called out again, so I'm back up here again. But I think in, what was it, June, your June meeting, you all had the engineers. I think Kelly was one of those that came forward to you all to present the concept, if you will, of the traffic. Was that June, July? And so they presented that. They also actually showed you, from my watching it on YouTube, they showed you that particular thing with all the little numbers and stuff on it. And you all specifically asked them, is there money? Is there money? Is this budgeted? And they actually came back and said, no. So there is no money. And as we know, you have elections, you have budgets, politicians change, right? So they're working off of budget money, not real money. And so again, as you change politicians, you change groups, you go from one to the other, stuff can be shot down. So again, none of this is funded. Thank you.
State your name, please.
Good evening. My name is Charles Thompson. I'm a resident in Idlewild. The number of habitation units, I think, is different from the 455. If you take a look at 215 duplexes, that's 430 habitation units. And if you take a look at adding the 240 single-family homes, you have 670 habitation units. And using Debbie's 1.8 cars per unit, we're talking 1,200 vehicles ultimately, not 1,000. So I think when we talk about the number of units, we have to talk about habitation units, because a duplex is actually 2 habitation units. If we talk about the 215, well, that's an odd number, and somewhere there's a half a duplex, and I don't think that that's really what they're talking about. When it comes to the funding for the road changes, the engineer, I'm sure, will tell you that there are no guarantees that there's going to be funding in the years that they say. When we came into Idlewild in the 1990s, it was during that time that there was supposed to be the addition of sewers for Deacon Hills and Idlewild. We don't have sewers yet. There was no funding. So we're talking about a 40-year wait for funding that's not going to be coming. Same thing can happen with changes down here. Our young lady talked about roadblocks. One thing that I have not heard addressed is any kind of making the tunnel under I-75 a 2-lane tunnel. That means there's one way really for people to get out of here, and that all dumps into Barnes Mill. If this were to occur over on Tates Creek Road, you would have 4, and if you include Valley View Ferry, you'd have 5 ways of getting out. But this is only one way. The Old Town branch with a single tunnel, I've gone down through there many times and had to wait for 1 or 2 cars. but there's no talk about widening that tunnel and putting a stoplight out on Lancaster Road. That would take and relieve a whole lot. The problem for this project is that there's a slight little impediment called I-75 that's between them and where everybody else is. If this were on the west side of I-75, there probably wouldn't be a problem. There is a need for affordable housing, there's no question. But I just, from my perspective, until all these other issues of traffic are properly resolved, this project is just not appropriate for that part of the city. So, thank you. Appreciate you letting me speak.
Sorry, I'm on the short side. My name is Barbara Hunsinger. I live at 132 Allen Dulles Drive. Okay. I'm not up here to talk about traffic or anything. I'm talking about your kids again. Like I said when I was here the last time, I hope you would take that in consideration for what you're going to do. These children need an education. If you put that many houses and that many apartments and duplex up there, it will overcrowd the schools, which are already overcrowded. Every one of the elementary school, high school, middle school are overcrowded. Even the new one, even though it's not open yet, it's still overcrowded. When they do this here up there, there are two elementary schools they're going to go to, Kit Carson and Kirkville. Both schools are overcrowded. Kit Carson has a terrible traffic jam on Tate Creek Road. When the parents come in to pick their kids up, because some parents do not use the bus, they go up there and they got a line of traffic going up that hill to Kit Carson. And I think you need to consider that. These kids have to go to school. They got a classroom, hopefully for 25 to 28 kids. If you put more than that in there, it's hard to teach the children. I had, in the morning this morning, I was on the bus, I'm an aide. This morning I had 70 kids. This afternoon I had 77. If some of my kids were off, if they were all on the bus, we would have over 80 kids. Tomorrow we're going to have 4 more added to that, and that would be the preschool kids. So we don't have enough room. So because we don't have enough room on the school buses, they're going to have to take our route. We're going to have to go in there, pick some of the kids up, take them home, the ones that are closer, then go back to school again and pick the other ones up. In the meantime, they are out of school. They are going to stay around school and get into all kinds of trouble and things. But that's doing the same route twice. Because some of them kids are going to be on the kindergarten bus, and we're going to have to take them and go back to that thing. So it will make these kids get home later than what they are getting home now. Besides that, we got the schools are all full. The traffic around the schools are terrible. We had to get a policeman up around Glen Marshall to take care of the traffic up there. The subdivisions, the one on 25, there is a mess. My son travels that every day. He said with that new subdivision in, it made a mess out of the whole thing. We need to get the kids home and get them taken care of. We need to get the kids to school on time. But this subdivision here, you got that many kids. You're going to have over 900 kids. You're going to have 1,000 more kids. We don't have the school for it. You need to build 2 more elementary schools. You're going to have to build a couple more middle schools to accommodate these kids. And that's a lot. You're not only going to do that. Again, I told you before, you're going to have to get new teachers, new aides. You're going to have to get new bus drivers, which we are already short on bus drivers. We are short 14 bus drivers already. You're going to have to buy new buses. We are short on buses. We are short 8 buses. And the only reason we are short on bus drivers is only 14 is because we took everybody that's in the transportation office is driving a bus. The maintenance department is driving a bus, and some of the teachers are driving a bus. So we can get these kids to school. Put that many more kids up, where are we going to get these people? We can't accommodate what we have now. I don't know how in the world we're going to accommodate anything else. But these kids need to get to school. They need to have a decent-sized classroom. They don't need anything that is so overcrowded that they can't do anything. The new school, like I said, is already done. But we already got several subdivisions that are coming in. There's a subdivision at Goggin Lane and Tay Creek. That's more kids. You got a subdivision going in behind Madison Miller School. That's going to be more kids coming in. You got a subdivision at Crutcher Pike and Muirshed Road. That's more. And I heard there's a rumor that they're going to develop an apartment development behind Richmond Center. So where are all these kids going to go? Where are we going to get everybody to take care of our children? And besides that, we had a midday run, which the kids that are 3 and 4 years old, our primary kids, we would put in school for half a day because they're young. We can't do that. We now have to send them to school 2 days, full day of school, because they had to cut the budget. And I talked to the finance person down at the school board, and he said that the state, we call property tax covers some of the school, but the state also get us money. They cut that 46% from last year. So we got a lot less money in our schools budget right now than we did last year. 46% from the state was cut. So if you don't have the money for the schools, you're not going to get new schools, you're not going to get new people to come. Bus drivers don't get paid a whole lot. And I know A does it. I got the experience. And I've been on this job for almost 19 years. But I enjoyed it. I get me the reason to get out of bed and everything and not be so lazy. But the thing is that these kids need more. And you put that in, and you got all those kids up there. Over 1,000 kids are going to be there. The duplexes, like he said, is double. It's not triple. Because I think the man showed us a picture of 3 to combine. So that could be even more. We can't afford to put 12 to 1,500 more kids in our school without
Yes.
buying more equipment, everything.
Yes, ma'am. I understand
So
what you're saying,
please-
because I'm in the school system myself, and I know
Yeah.
exactly, but we, the city, we can't control the building of the schools. I understand what you're saying, but I mean, we just can't, we don't have no control over that.
But you're the planning division, and you need to take that in consideration. What are we going to do with them? You're planning to open this development up. You need to plan on everything. They plan on traffic, but what about the kids? If the state already cut our budget once this year, don't mean they're not going to cut it again.
Yes, ma'am, but, again, I understand, and there is a problem with it, but we can't control that right there with that. I appreciate your
But I do
your
think you
concern
need
over
to
it.
think of it. Our kids are important. We love this city, and we love this county. And we want our kids to stay here and to raise their children. I got 12 grandchildren and 12 great-grandchildren. Most of them live in Madison County. And they love Madison County. They were raised here. But if they can't get a good education, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to leave. And the reason they can't get a good education is because you got overcrowded classrooms and buses and everything else. Try putting 77 kids on a bus. It's not an easy job. And I got them from primary kids all the way up to high school. And they said, well, you can fit 84 kids on there. You ever try to put 3 high school kids in one seat? You can't do it. There's no way, even when they're 5th graders. So I really wish you would consider this when you think about changing that zone.
Okay, thank you.
I thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Preston, and I wanted to talk about the risk with regards to emergency response times in the area. So, is that better? Can you hear me better? So I said I wanted to talk about emergency response times with regards to especially Old Town Branch area. So I did an open records request, and I pulled the years 2015, 2020, and 2023. And I just got an average response time for EMS. This is not police, this is not fire. So in 2015, the average response time for Old Town Branch was 4 minutes and 58 seconds. In 2020, it was 5 minutes and 40 seconds. In 2023, it increased to 5 minutes and 52 seconds. So with the added traffic that we've talked about, the added people in the area and the cars, the one-lane tunnel, how much more is the increase going to be to these times? The demographics of the neighborhood in the area, over 50% of the people there are over the age of 50, especially getting into Adams Lane and Old Town Estates. So this is just going to add in more time for them to wait if they need emergency personnel. Thank you.
I'm Billy Good. I live at the back of Old Town Estates, and there's a few people in this room that say they've lived in that area for 40 years, but I've lived there 41, and I was 41. I'm 41 years old. So, I don't know. I have a unique perspective. I've been trying to figure out Will Green Lake in that area and this particular property, and I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's something you can't look at Google Earth. You can't fly over in a helicopter. You can't look at a USGS topo map. You don't see what this property is by looking at it. And he talked about the developing the ridge lines. That drawing right there, those roads don't go on ridge lines. Those ridge lines aren't like they look like they are. It's different. And I'm asking the question, have these developers actually been out there and looked at it? And I'm going to guess they've not actually pulled the original quadrangle maps, the USGS topo maps that they did, I don't know, in the 60s, something like that. But the quadrangle that shows this property in Will Green Lake, there's 4 versions of it that I've found. And I mean, I did this when I was young, went to model, and we had them right there just because Eastern had given to us. And it was blacked out in one. Like the whole little area just blacked out of the quadrangle map where I live, my house. And then I assumed it was because they built the lake. You know, they built it in '69 or whatever. But this property is blacked out too. And then there's another version that the lines don't line up with what's there, like they were just made up. And then there's another version that's before the lake was built. And it's just really strange. And it's an odd piece of land. And every bit of the watershed is going to go into Will Green. And that end of the lake where I live, it's the Taylor's Fork end, and it is filling up with sediment right now because there's almost no flow into it except when it rains. The wind always blows against that flow. There's an eddy created where Old Town Branch blows pretty constant, 365 days of the year, no, but like maybe 3 less than that. So there's an eddy created there, and everything that hits the water, which what I mean is every single hamburger wrapper, every single cup, every single cigarette pack, every piece of garbage that's thrown up about maybe 2 miles of I-75 and Hampton Way, Colleton Lane, most of Argyle, I don't know, an endless amount of storm sewers come there, and when it rains real hard, it flushes them right out, and they literally float up onto our property, and they stay there. But the lake's filling up with this stuff. It's filling up with sediment that comes from all these different sources. It's filling up. You can stand where I've always fished my entire life, and you know it's not very deep out there, and it's not the end of the lake. The end of the lake's way around here, but there's like a little dirt pile sticking up in the middle of the water. And I ain't been out on a boat in a while, but I know that you couldn't. There's no way you could go past that. And if they do this development, there's no way to stop sediment from flowing down into it during development, and then from then on, you know, just the little granules off your roof shingles that go down in the roof gutters. They hit the storm sewer because they're rushed down the road. They're going to come right out in the lake. Every bit of it, okay. And it's just some consideration for that. acknowledgement that somebody has walked down in there and looked at it or anything, because it's literally the entire watershed. I don't know percentage-wise, but some of it will go to Old Town Branch and most of it will go to Taylor's Fork. I'm assuming that, how they do their dirt work or whatever when they develop it would make a difference. But, do you send it to Old Town Branch and it's already floods? Or you send it to Taylor's Fork that needs more flow or whatever, but that's just going to be when it rains. And it's filling up with sediment. They've done a lot. At the other end of the lake, they're catching fish out of there like I've never in my life imagined could possibly survive in Wheelgreen. And it's awesome. People have done a lot of hard work to get it to that point. And, it's still completely contaminated with every single toilet flush that comes out of Deacon Hill and Idlewild. So, this is the last little piece of land that's adjoining that. Somebody should, consider maybe we should have the sewer, just the availability for it to tie in the future. This is environmental impact stuff, and I don't know if they've done an environmental impact study. If they, if they hired Vision Engineering to do it, just like they did that traffic thing, then maybe they should ask for their money back. But there's two of those tunnels, by the way, two one-lane tunnels. Closer than Barnes Mill Road to these entrances right here. There's two one-lane tunnels at the other end of the road. And the fact that there was no consideration of even mentioning them in the traffic studies, it just blows my mind. But anyway, that's my concern. This land is, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Wheelgreen Lake, it's an area nobody's ever goes to. The end of it, it's hard to get to. I can get to it because it's the bottom of our property, and the first time that I walked and ended up under I-75 and popped out in Willow Ridge, it was a red letter day of my childhood when we figured out that we could do that. It was before Hampton Way. It was before any of that was cleared, but we just followed the shoreline all the way and, popped up, and we were on Lancaster Road. It was crazy. But it's all flat, level. You can look at the topo lines. There's like 910 or something stays, and then 930, and then 950, and then this a big portion of that right there is at 1,000. It's literally right there. I don't know. I've been trying for most of my life, I haven't in a while, but I can't figure out how to get across that property 2 or 3 different ways. It's strange. It's got like holes in it. It's not been developed for a reason. I ask you all are smart men and women. You know that there's been people developing land right here in Madison County, Richmond, forever. Get several of them in this room. Very successful local developers. Alan Grant drives by it every day, I'm assuming. He didn't buy it back when it was $200,000 and develop it. Nobody else did. I remember talking with Bob Hager. He put a lot of effort into trying to figure out a development strategy for it. It wasn't there. And there's got to be a reason, right? Nobody's developed it for some kind of a reason. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I've got some ideas, but the money ain't there. That's why developers develop. I don't know if they've really researched it as much as they maybe should, or, maybe they can make money doing it. I don't know what they do, but I would rather it not be done. Single-family homes, there's no way you could fit that many onto it because of the way the land lays. If you go by gross acreage and per gross acre, yeah, you can cram, you can build straight up and cram on top of each other if you want to, but it doesn't fit to put that many houses in there on, even if you divide it up 5.1 whatever to an acre. It just doesn't lay good. It doesn't lay for it. The roads are hard. I don't even know how much dirt work they have to do to connect all those roads together like they have in the middle, but it doesn't work when you look at the property without a lot of major work. And these are my questions. Think about them if you're going to consider letting this pass as is. There's topo lines on the outside of it and none in the middle, so I don't know what they're going to do. But it doesn't, in my mind, I can't look at this piece of land and see that being a feasible thing.
Okay.
There's a reason for those green areas. It's not buffer zones. Those are really, really weird places in the world to get to. It's hard to hike from there. See, I live, somewhere down here at the bottom, but cross the road and then you can go straight across, and it's like, wow, it's right there. No, it's not. You can't do that. You can't walk through there if you got, 2 machetes and a chainsaw. You can't. it looks like you can from Google, not Google Maps, Google Earth, get the good pictures, and really, really zoom in on it, change the years out of the photographs, and look at how things change. You can look at the lake, how it used to like it does on the maps, but it really just rounds out right here, and this is all dirt with grass growing in it. And it doesn't go, up here anymore. And it's just a strange place in the world. And I don't think this strange place in the world should have this amount of houses try to be crammed on it.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Oh, I'm pro-development, by the way. I've been a builder all my life, and I like building stuff. I'm cool with it.
Hello, I'm David Blackwell, 1128 Old Town Branch Road. Just a few comments. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for having the public hearings. It's been a very learning experience for me, a new experience. But the last meeting we had, they kept telling you that you had to do this because it was in line with the comprehensive plan. At that time, I didn't know what a comprehensive plan was. I went back, researched it, and their proposal, what I can see, is not in line with your comprehensive plan, because the map online shows that to be single-family dwelling, that agricultural land converted future use to single-family only. So they're asking you to go against your comprehensive plan, not align with your comprehensive plan. They've also, the property across the street have already received that to be R2, is my understanding, which was supposed to be mixed suburban, which means it could have been a doctor's office and not 3 houses, 3 townhomes, right? So they've already made you or requested and got permission to go against the comprehensive plan. I would request that you stick to your comprehensive plan and limit it to single-family dwellings. The other thing is, all of the traffic studies and the data assume everybody turns left. And it only talks about Hampton and Barnes Mill, not Congleton, Old Town Branch, and Lancaster. So, not to beat a dead horse, but their traffic study, in order to be complete and accurate, needs to look at the right-hand turn coming out of the subdivision and development and consider those intersections. One being the stop sign on Congleton to Old Town, immediately followed by a 1-lane tunnel, which people cross and block Old Town Branch, so there's people stuck in the tunnel all the time. So for us, I think to get a true picture, their study, a traffic study, needs to look at the other intersection. They're assuming that Congleton and Hampton Lane and Congleton are not connected as they once were, but now they are. So there's traffic flow both directions, not just one. Appreciate your time, and thank you for your consideration.
Hi, I'm Dwayne Schuman. I live at 102 Masters Court. Actually, the gentleman before me covered a lot what I was going to say. So really the only big question I have on my mind is, we're saying affordable housing. What size houses are the plans that were shown to us? And what are we calling affordable? I mean, are we talking 150 and below? I mean, because, in all honesty, affordable nowadays is not anywhere near probably what these houses are going to sell for. I mean, I think we got a realtor here. He could probably give us some advice on that, I guess. But I really, do we have any? What are the square footage of those plans? Do you all have that?
Mr. Chairman, if you would mind, I'll take that as a note to come back and rebuttal, just so we don't have a constant back and forth. If that'd be better for you all. I think it might make it flow.
Well, it sounds like that would be a very simple thing to answer, honestly. Well, no, it's
Sir,
fine. You can. But the other thing that I pulled up, you all talked about the comprehensive plan. That's kind of the thing that started everything to begin with. Like the gentleman said, looking at the map, this is shown as future land use of single family. It says nothing about multifamily use. I think we know that the townhomes they're considering to be single family would likely be rented by students. And then just probably the last 40 pages of the comprehensive plan was pretty eye-opening. It was a discussion between the committee, and it was just some, I guess, public, I guess they did a poll. And some of the things that they said in here, the committee discussed the following key ideas and issues. The city hears that they currently have too many multifamily units, and there's a strong desire for more single-family homes. Based off of the development we've had here recently, 200 units going across by Richmond Center. That's luxury apartments. Apparently somebody working, at Olive Garden is going to be able to afford a luxury apartment, work from and walk to home. I don't know where they get that, but challenges related to transportation included downtown congestion. There's a few where they did some votes on, let's see, ensure all new development aligns or transitions appropriately with the existing character, scale, and density of nearby neighborhoods. That one does not do that at all. That one doesn't really matter. There are concerns about traffic improvements around the Goggins Lane multi-use development. From your perspective, what are Richmond's biggest challenges to overcome? Traffic and road conditions. List anything specific about Richmond's transportation system. Traffic congestion at certain times of the day is a big problem. List anything specific related to housing in Richmond. Less apartments and more single-family development. Just basic search, just crunching numbers. It's just, don't know how accurate that is at all, but I think the average growth of Richmond is like a little over 2%, 2.5% or something a year. 900 people, a year. And obviously all of them are not going to be in one home. And we've got hundreds of houses being built all over the place. And then right now, as from this morning, we have 301 units on Zillow. 191 houses for sale and 110 units for rent. So those aren't even filled yet. And then the last thing I thought was interesting was name one or more of Richmond's strongest assets, and that was small town feel. Is you? Yeah. So I don't want, Lexington. I work in Lexington. I like coming home to Richmond. Traffic can be bad. It's not horrible right now. It can get horrible. I imagine with developments like this popping up, it's going to get really bad. And the thing about Richmond is it's a small town. People came here because of that, and I think that's what they want. So that's all I've got.
Hello, my name is Celeste Roberts, and I'm an occupational therapist. I trained at Eastern Kentucky University, as well as going to Model. So Preston, I'm so glad to see you back in your hometown, even though you're not, really holding on. But I would like to kind of comment on some information as far as these being affordable houses and maybe something that someone could move into when later. My job is to help elderly people function in their homes. These are not functionable two-level homes for a senior, so I don't think that we need to kind of be marketing it in that way. That's a very dangerous thing to do. We also need to consider that we are a very small town, and we also have rumors of additional grave and slave yards on across the easement, across a ridge that Sharon Graves is looking into, so I just want you guys to be notified of that information. I know that the developers are very helpful, and they were on the phone today with Sharon Graves when they were out at the property looking for that. So I just want to bring that to your all's attention for the KRS notifications as needed. Just because you can't see it, you cannot ignore a potential grave site. So I would like for that to be looked into and to have a voice for people of this county that never got it and are now able to. So thank you for hearing us, and thank you for remembering that we are a community already and we don't need to build another one. Thank you.
Kevin, you have anything? No, sir. Does any commissioners have anything? Swear.
So while Mr. Halani comes back up to address the right turn, because that is addressed in the traffic study. We didn't address it with our executive summary discussion here because the previous discussion was predominantly worried about Barnes Mill Road. But in the work that Vision Engineering has done, they took that section going to the right also into consideration. And it gave me the opportunity, I forgot. You saw the executive summary, so for the record, this is the entire traffic study. It's over 120-something pages with all of the exhibits. So I just put that in the record. And then I'll allow Mr. Kalani to address going towards the tunnel, and then I'm going to ask the folks from Lone Tree to answer those questions about the house size and hopeful price point. While that's market-driven, of course, we can't guarantee that. But go ahead, Mr.
Yes, sir. It's, would you please, on the traffic study, it's page number 2, please. It shows, so we, on the trip generation, so basically we assume there's 80% is going to, of the traffic. Yeah. And the trip generation and the traffic analysis, we assume 80% of the traffic is going to be directed toward Barnes Mill Road and 20% is going to go to Old Town Branch. And then we call that intersection of Hampton Way with Old Town Branch intersection number 5. And the reason I did not speak about it is just because the impact of it is very insignificant. I mean, we are adding. Yeah. So, I mean, the impact is like only a couple of seconds of additional delay will be generated by for the 3 scenario for phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3. So that's why I did not discuss it in the presentation.
Why don't you go ahead and then I'll finish up once everybody's had a chance.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Worley, I appreciate it. My name's Ed Brown, I live in Old Town Estates. I must say with respect, I walk along Old Town Branch every day. I walk to the tunnel and I walk the whole neighborhood back. To say that there's 1 or 2 cars there defies reality. I mean, I just don't see that. I see an awful lot more at times. There are times when there's no cars there, obviously. But that place gets very packed and people get frustrated because it is 1 lane and it's not a very travelable place. I do have a question about the map, if we could I see the map again, please? Just a quick question on the 2 exits from the proposed development. Are they both on Hampton Way, or is one of them perhaps on Connelton? And I don't know, I just don't know the answer to that. I'm curious. They're both on Hampton, or is one on Connelton, one on Hampton? I don't know. I don't know. I know, that was my question, and the reason I asked the question is that one is a city road and one is a county road. And that may well be an issue as well for this development. I don't know. I'm asking because I don't have the answer myself. That's not a trick question. But it seems to me that there have been some very minor changes to this proposal. You all voted unanimously last time that the density was too high. I respectfully state that it's still too high. And I think as long as there are 4plexes and there's 1 triplex and duplexes in there, it's going to continue to be high. And I think when you look at traffic, you can't look at this in isolation. I know that the traffic study considered other things, and I appreciate that. But we who live in that neighborhood drive that road now. And to have 815 more units, 360 of which have already been approved, going on to Connelton/Hampton is a lot. It's asking a lot. It's difficult for us sometimes now to get out. And the state may or may not allocate money. The Transportation Cabinet can ask for anything it wants, and they may well get it. And I think people have goodwill in general and want to do the right thing, but these things may or may not happen. It's already a disaster now. We don't need to get on it and look at a plat map. Anyone who drives Barnes Mill at the wrong time of the day, and that wrong time of the day is getting longer every day, anyone who drives on the west side of I-75 in the Barnes Mill area knows that the traffic is untenable now. We know that this property is going to be developed. We're adults. We understand that. It's part of the comprehensive plan. But again, single-family residences are part of the plan. 192 units that are fourplexes, 1 triplex, and 20 living units that are duplexes are not part of the plan. It doesn't work. So I would respectfully ask that that decision be made, that R2 be eliminated from consideration. And I appreciate the folks from Springville. I've actually been to your community before. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate the traffic folks and everyone who's spoken. And I realize people have a right to make a living. People want to make a living. There's no one in this room against that. My dad was a carpenter. I've worked construction as well. But smart development is smart development. And you all have a unique opportunity and responsibility to make sure that the Richmond that our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren see is one that will be salutary, will be positive, and not be a disaster. Thank you.
Hi, Jennifer Browning, 100 Congleton Lane. I was here speaking with you on April 17, 2024. I'm not going to repeat the things that I said before. We are all of Old Town Branch, Old Congleton Lane. We are all opposed to this change. The houses in Old Town Estates do not reflect their rendering at all. It's just so out of character for the area. But my main concern is I'm a health educator. I have a master's of health science. I want to protect the health of our community and all of our people. Putting a high-density housing development on the land bordering this property will be devastating to the lifestyle to our neighbors and all future residents and visitors. People like to visit Richmond to escape the hecticness of the city. This development is simply to make money. They're not trying to provide housing. Yes, maybe we need housing. They just want to make money, and they could do it in a better way that more of our residents would be agreeable to. It's too high a density. The effects of increased pollution will be detrimental to the health of our community. Outdoor air pollution leads to increases in heart disease, respiratory infection, stroke, and lung cancer. 4.2 million people die prematurely from outdoor air pollution. Low-density housing is crucial to minimizing the amount of people who suffer from these chronic diseases. Low-density housing allows residents to live in an area with less pollution, less litter, and less traffic. This results in a greater quality of life where residents can live off the land if they choose, they take pride in their property, and they may choose to be more active. The roadways are safe for residents to take a walk and for children to play. Low-density housing is also better for the animals that live there, and we have a lot of animals in that area, a lot of wildlife. Litter from the high-density housing will blow across the fields, animals will eat it and become sick or die. In addition, lower traffic levels help livestock remain calm. No matter how the road is altered after our 11 years of traffic torture to accommodate the traffic flow, the traffic and resulting negative health outcomes will still be there. We will have more death and disability due to traffic accidents. People will not be able to walk or bike ride on the roads. And this area is part of the Trans-America Bike Route. Pollution will be horrible from vehicle exhaust, and runoff will be detrimental to the waterways, including the pond to the left of my house and to the creek at the bottom edge of my property, and to Will Green Lake, of course. Residents in Madison County may choose to move away if this high-density development continues in our area. We want to escape the hustle and bustle of the city. We don't want it to be our home. Please, I urge you, to deny this zoning change for all of us and future residents. Thank you.
He's got some people. No, not yet.
My name is Kate Goins. I live at 319 Adams Lane in Old Town Estates. I just have two brief points. One is, does this mean there's another 500 septic tanks up there? Okay.
Sewer.
And the second point is Congleton Lane is a country road. It is not suitable for people whether they turn right and go down to Old Town Branch or they try to turn left to go up Hampton Way. It's a country road. That's what it is. It's not suitable for another 800, 900 cars on it. And that's all I've got. But I would like to know about the septic tanks.
No, it'd be sewer.
So this will all be city sewered, no septic tanks. Once the city annexes a property, the purpose of annexation is to say that we will provide city services to that area. So when the city commission made that decision years ago, they already have said we will provide city services, which of course the developer will have to put in, but James, Jenny, if somebody from your team could talk to the size of the house and hopeful market price before I give just some brief rebuttal and closing remarks. I think that was the last question.
What a good turnout tonight, huh? It's great. Actually, I think you're lucky. A lot of the cities we go to don't have all the minds come and try to bring out all the ideas so that a thoughtful growth can happen in a community. And there's been lots of thoughtful discussion tonight. The traffic study was done long before we submitted, right? The discussions with Sharon were done long before we came and presented. So I just want you to know we are a thoughtful community or developer. We're thoughtful. And that's meaningful. And true, this is a concept. But there's been a lot of thought put into this so that we can grow. Again, we're pro-growth, obviously, right? And every city we go to, growth is challenging. It presents its challenges. And so there's those that aren't pro-growth. But a thoughtful approach is very important. And we've tried to be that way and listen and blend affordable housing, which I'll talk about in just a minute, with what your community is asking for. And so to answer the question about affordable housing, it's actually a long process for us to figure out what affordable housing is in the markets we go to. So we've met with several of the financial institutions in town. We've done a lot of demographic research in town, and we've looked at median incomes. And then we work back from the median income to what they can borrow or what they can get a mortgage for. And so then we work with the local builders and suppliers. I'm going to put them on the spot, but we work with Mike and Lisa Conley. If you guys know the Conleys, they're our local partner in building the homes, both on this project and our other project just to the north. And then we are also working with Hagers, with Brent Baldwin, in trying to drive the cost of supplies. The costs have really gone up since COVID. Everybody knows that. And so that we can bring an affordable product here. We also, Ben, I'm throwing Ben under the bus here. He's our realtor with KW here locally. We've done a lot of research on what the price point is of those 191 homes that are currently here. And it's getting harder and harder to find a home a good quality home in a good location under $300,000 here. And that's really just not attainable for many of the working class here in Richmond. And so the homes we have range from, and I'm going to use our national our home selections. We're building homes as small as 900 square feet and up to 2,000 square feet. And it's kind of, we just kind of will set Richmond where the people can afford the homes. Now, the homes that are 900 square feet is like a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home, single level, and they're very common with the retirees or those who can't do stairs anymore, those looking to downsize. The size of these lots, both the townhomes and the single-family homes, they're very helpful to the people who can't take care of a yard anymore, right? So we're looking to come out of the county and downsize into something that we can actually afford and take care of. There is a transition period before, as you retire, before maybe you go to a home or assisted living where you don't want to go. You want your own place, but you still can't take it. You can't afford it. And so we have we build quite a few homes for those folks. And then as far as what will be built, there's so much forecasting and look ahead, it's hard to say today. But we actually listen to the market. And if we have a lot of divorcees, singles, elderly that are widows or widowers that need the smaller footprint, then we will build more of those homes. If we have the EKU graduates, the newly marrieds, then they like the 3-bed, 2-bath, right, with some garage because they're going to start growing a family. And so again, just in listening to the community and what the community wants, that's what we do. And this plan really considers that. Nobody here's asked why R1C. And Preston alluded to it earlier. R1C is 50, it allows us to do a 50-foot wide lot rather than R1A, which is 70. And so the homeowner pays for all the sidewalk and the road and the utilities and the land underneath their home. And so there's a huge savings to those folks who buy those homes in the R1C zoning that you guys have. And then there's an even more of a savings to the people that need the attainable housing in the townhomes. They can still buy a single unit under this plan, so they can go buy one townhome. But again, it's even a little bit less land and less of those development costs that they pay for. And then just to give you price point, we think price point here, assuming that we're able to do townhomes and single-family homes, will probably range from the low 200,000s to maybe the low 300s, 325-ish, depending on what actually ends up getting built there. And so it really brings a brand-new home to market below anything that's available today, which is, and the price point today is really unattainable for those folks, for many of those folks. So, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, not long ago, Richmond was in the news for needing affordable housing, right? And, last comment for me, growing a city is hard. And there's so many opinions that pull one way or the other. There's so many considerations. And so we're hopeful that affordable housing is important to you. And we're hopeful that you like the thoughtfulness that's gone into this plan. We're hopeful you like the thoughtfulness that we've already displayed. And then we also hope that you realize that we'll continue to be thoughtful. And as Preston said, to coordinate and work through the issues that you guys are dealing with as you direct the growth in the city. So maybe last thing, is there any questions for me that I can ask as the developer that maybe Preston would not be able to answer? Okay.
All right, you're talking $250,000, $300,000 per what? 1,200 square foot, not condo, but duplex, right? Townhouse.
Townhome.
Okay, so if you're talking, say, $200,000.
They said a week, $20,000.
$113,750,000.
Is that how much it's going to cost us to build it?
No, that's your profit minus what you're going to cost to build. So you take what?
That ain't got nothing to do with it.
50% off of that. You're still going to walk away with at least.
I hope you're right. I really do. I hope you're right. Yeah.
$60 million. When we all know what the property was sold for.
Sir.
Thank you.
Let's get this.
Yeah, thank you.
So
because we don't want to leave stones unturned, those calculations obviously wouldn't come into any development costs, land moving, infrastructure, sewer, water, gas, an R1C lot is as much as $30,000-$40,000 per lot to develop. So obviously, so just to address that last piece. So just to wrap up quickly with just a few minor pieces of rebuttal, because I think we've had just a great conversation generally, to the future land use map discussion. And it's always very important. And as I've told you before, the law says that a comprehensive plan is a guide. It's not meant to be a shackle. Well, here it's a great guide that really guides why this is the right proposal. Your future land use map does call for single-family homes in this place. Just right above it, it called for business, but you all recently rezoned that for duplexes because of the need in the community for housing. So we saw that as a better use, and the comprehensive plan specifically says it's important to understand that the future land use map is used in conjunction with other sections of the future land use plan, which of course call for various different types of density, and it says even in the single-family residential, the classification should include various densities of single-family residential growth. And even the townhome R2 here is being proposed to be just a attached single-family product. So it meets, it works, and I think what Jameis just put to you, if you don't allow for a little bit of density changes, a little bit of use types, then you lose the affordability, and you can't make that product that he's wanting to put forward. But I would put to you, when we fight over whether it's supposed to be single family or multifamily, an R2 density is the exact same as an R1C density, 5.1 units per gross acre. So whether you call it whether you allow for the townhouse use or allow for the only detached single-family use, it is still 5.1 units per gross acre, which, in this situation, without a voluntary density cap, which is being offered here, would be over 1,000 units. And they are offering 455, give or take, units after the whole thing is engineered and a development plan comes back to you. So in the time that we have been here, that we've started this process, we have now seen significant developments in the state highway traffic plan. We believe that those are going to come to fruition. Even if they don't, or they don't come timely, each phase of this project will be to you all to determine whether it's appropriate at that time and whether the state's improvements have come to fruition or are coming to fruition timely. The traffic engineering plan that you saw shows that even without any of that, phase one is acceptable as is, without the improvements. So we're at a position now that it's time to start moving forward on property that is inside the city limits that is intended to be developed. And what you're here to do tonight is not to approve this plan and not to decide that all of this is right or wrong, or to even have all of the answers. All of those answers come to you when you give a developer just a little bit of a green light to spend all that engineering money and time and work with your staff and come back with a full plan. And so that's why tonight, all you're being asked to do is give this a zoning designation. Agriculture inside the city limits is inappropriate. So we need a zoning designation. You're being asked to give this one of your least dense zoning and with the understanding in the minutes of this meeting and what's going to come back to you and what's going to be presented to your staff of a density cap. So this is as good a project for the area and the sensitivities of the area as I think you'll find. And I've stood in front of you all and I have advocated for very, very dense developments. Ms. Perkins, you and I just a couple weeks ago talked about a very dense apartment development that I thought was appropriate and I advocated hard for. I wouldn't do that here. That's not here. This is a single-family, mixed-type residential development is what's appropriate here. And it has to, the density and then the ultimate number of units are going to have to match what the traffic will sustain and what you all ultimately get to approve with a development plan. So I respect everybody here and everything that they've said. They raise all valid concerns. I appreciate Celeste bringing it up. I grew up and went to school with her, with Billy. Billy, my dad says you've grown up to be one hell of an equipment operator. Dom and I grew up together. My sister played soccer with the Vesios, with Jenna. I respect everybody here, and they all raise really valid concerns. Those concerns, I think, have been shown to you, are either addressed or addressable, and at this point, a zone change of R1C and R2 is appropriate to start moving some development forward and get some housing that is greatly needed in the community. So with that, thank you, and I'd appreciate your approval.
May I make a suggestion? A proposal?
This will be the last one.
Yeah, all right. George Childs, I just think the affordable housing thing is used way too much around here. Right now, you've got Tate's Creek, you've got, I don't know how many homes at the corner of Goggins and Tate's Creek. You've also got another development right up the street, which is going to be R1, R2, R3. You just okayed something out on Irvin Road. I think the planning and zoning really needs to take a look at what all you're granting to be developed before you start developing more, because you definitely don't have the infrastructure. That's all I've got.
Do any commissioners have any more?
No, I'd like to propose that we deny the change from ag to R1C. I appreciate the business model. I think it's wonderful. I don't think it's appropriate on Congleton Lane. The area just doesn't call for it. There's too much congestion. There's the little one-lane bridge. People use it to cut from one end of Lancaster Avenue to Barnes Mill. And so I propose that we deny the change, the zone change. At least temporary, for the time being, we don't have the infrastructure.
We can't do it that way.
No?
I'd second that. And the reason is because of the fact we have so many projects out there that haven't come to fruition. So therefore, a traffic study really can't reflect that. What Tate's Creek and Goggins and Ramsey project and the new project we pushed at Richmond Center with the apartments. And we don't even have any money for the projects.
What?
So I think at this point, I would second it.
Okay, so the motion, just so that I'm clear, the motion is to deny the zone change as presented, would be a correct way to say that. Okay, and Dr. Miller, you second? Okay, so if you, just so everyone's clear, if you vote yes, you are voting yes to deny. Okay. Commissioner Shue?
Abstain.
Okay. Commissioner Francis?
No.
Commissioner Short?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
It is to deny. So
Uh-huh. Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Miles? No. Commissioner Still?
No.
We're tied? Yeah, we're tied. There's a tie vote.
A tie vote would go forward to the city commission with no recommendation.
Okay. So I think, Mr. Frazier, you might want to say that one again on the mic.
If you want to go on to the next thing while I address the council.
Okay. Mr. Frazier has advised that while we're figuring out that vote, you could move to the next item in the meantime. Or you can wait.
Huh?
You could either wait for Mr. Frazier, or you could move to the next thing, and once they're done talking, come back to this.
Well, we can go on with,
This goes, if you all approve it or don't approve it, if you all end up approving it, It will go to the commissioners and to the mayor. They will have two readings, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
The second one, and so what I encourage you to do, if they allow this to go through, I will send you emails, the phone numbers of the mayors, the commissioners, everything that you can go through and ask them not to.
What we're going to do? Goes to the commission.
So it moves to the city commission with no recommendation.
Okay, so Mr. Fraser, so that I'm clear, the item moves to the city commission at this point with no recommendation either way from the planning commission?
From this body.
From this planner.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Next agenda.
We need to go on.
Well, I'll wait some of these Philip go. That ain't nothing. They've had Valley View closed for all week. They've had tractor trailer trucks down there. No, Tyler's gone out to get something. He's over there. See, Preston.
Preside over tough meetings.
Hey, tell your dad.
What's that?
Tyler. Kevin. Let me get this up.
Ladies and
Excuse me.
gentlemen, we're going to go on with the
The
meeting.
next on the agenda is the construction guarantee release for Laney Brook Place.
If you will, I'll speak in charge of this one. We've been conducting some of our overdue subdivisions. In short, this one has met all field inspections. It is complete, and I would recommend the release of its letter of credit.
Okay, may I get a motion on that?
A second?
Mr. Francis, that was you first, right? You were the motion, or Dr. Short? Okay. Short and Miller. Commissioner Shu?
Yes.
Commissioner Francis?
Yes.
Commissioner Short?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Miles?
Yes.
Commissioner Estelle?
Yes. Next on the agenda is the zone designation for short-term rentals.
Again, Mr. Chairman, what has happened briefly, for those of you who aren't aware, I'll give you the cliff notes. We have an ordinance basically for short-term rentals.
Excuse me.
Sure. That works too.
Again, in short, we have an ordinance regulating short-term rentals, Airbnbs, what have. What that ordinance is lacking is what zones that they would be appropriate in, and most likely conditional. So the city commission has deemed it necessary for this board to make recommendation on what zones future short-term rentals would exist in. Now, there could be a question on existing ones. The existing ones are somewhere 24, 25, 26 of those in existence that we know of. Those are, the dirty word is grandfathered. They will continue to be in whatever zone that they may reside in, other than the fact that they must register and pay the transient tax. So all we're after today is a recommendation by this body for a zone that you feel appropriate for short-term rentals.
Do you feel conditional use would be a better zone?
Conditional use based on whichever zone you may like, I would recommend. Therefore, it could, we have some, instances that Tyler and I have spoke about, and amongst others, is that you may have a single-family residence sitting in an R3, and if you don't allow it in an R3, you have the physical nature there, but you have the wrong zone. So by making these things conditional based upon whatever zone you may suggest would allow us to at least take a look at that. You can do certainly a mix-up. You can do something that is permitted in a zone that you like without a shadow of a doubt, or you can choose others and label those as conditional, which would allow us to take a look at those with a little bigger microscope.
So options would be like R1, R2, Ag1, agriculture. I mean, you can do it out in the country, have it B&B. Where would you not want one?
Well, some of the things to consider would be, certainly R1s, because that structure is a single-family type sitting. R2s, you need to consider that you have a family in one side, and then the other side, short-term rental with different neighbor every week, month. If you look at an R3, short-term rental in a single unit of an 8-unit building, you sort of get into a classification of turning that into a hotel. So those are just some off-the-wall ideas and
So
things to
everything but
consider.
an R2 and an R3 would be appropriate, is that correct?
I would say R1 probably.
Well,
That's why
R1,
conditional use gives him a little flexibility.
that would be down
Correct.
West Main, and a lot of people, you go to Airbnbs because they're close to town. So that's why I don't see a problem with residential.
So that's say residential.
What do y'all think?
Two, we've got a choice of
Have you looked at what other cities
use or
around
conditional. Conditional gives them a little more.
are
leeway.
doing? I mean, just,
That way they can.
not that we got to follow other cities, but I'm just curious.
They're appropriate.
Have taken a look at it. Some of their zones are much diverse than ours. If you go to Lexington, you go to Louisville, things of that nature. I think it's more of a feel for what the city of Richmond would like. We're at a precedence here to make a decision on how we want to move forward before something gets out of control or we don't have a way to deal with it, and then here we are. Mr. Fraser's also brought up a good point for you to consider as well, is that, your B1s and B2s have the loft option over top of those businesses, and those could be certainly conditional or permitted as well.
Yeah.
So if they went to conditional use, well, they'd have to go before the Board of Adjustments for that particular one versus if they had an R1, they wouldn't have to bring it before anybody, would they?
A good example would be if you liked R1 as permitted, they just come and register with our department. If you deem it conditional in any other, then the answer is yes. They would have to go to the Board of Adjustments to seek that permission, and once given, then we would register them.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, R1 seems to be a dead giveaway. The loft apartments, it's an income-based business. So loft certainly enters the mind. And if you attach conditional to anything outside of, I would think, the R1, it would allow us to make a smart decision on whether or not the business can afford parking and what have with it. There would be a lot to consider. I know we got some agriculture lots kind of floating around, but I don't know if considering an agriculture lot at this point, being that it's a placeholder, if we consider agriculture or agricultural zones, then you could be setting somebody up for failure if they come in for a zone change, and then now you have an existing yet non-conforming that you would be making. So might veer away from an agriculture tract within the city limits, which are very few, but
Oh, because
we
this is
had.
just within the city limits?
That's correct. This is only within the city.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So we don't care what they do out in the county? Cool.
Sure.
Okay.
But all things to be considered, we would entertain a recommendation, or if this body would like to have a little further time to think about that, we could certainly entertain that, or I can help answer any of your questions that you might have with some of the zones.
You want to make a recommendation tonight?
And if you guys want more time to think, we can.
I would like to think about it a little more. Don't get me wrong, I
Sure.
had an accounting client that went through it over in Woodford County, so I've got a little bit of knowledge over there. Are you talking about writing statute's not the right word, or adopt an ordinance, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I'm going to refer to you as the attorney, city attorney, what's your thought? I don't even know your thoughts right now. I'd like to know some people's thoughts.
The city commission has put in place a regulatory scheme as to permitting of these short-term rentals. So that is ongoing. They thought there was a great need to get ahead of it. They left open the issue of zoning for your board to address first before coming to them. So there is a comprehensive scheme for permitting, which includes inspections by the fire department, and also really meeting minimum safety standards that would be required for anyone staying anywhere, such as smoke detectors, sanitary, all of those things. As far as the zoning, it's been kind of left up in the air to you, and I'd be happy to give you my personal thoughts outside of this, but that's not really my role here as to where it should be zoned. It's your all's consideration.
And if you do want more information, I can give you the ordinance that's on record right now, and then also kind of show you what it would look like if you did sort of what you just talked about. But we can give you more information if you want more information.
What do you want to think about it some more?
Just table it.
Okay, table.
Make a motion that we table it.
I'll second that.
Okay. Commissioner Shu?
Are we voting to table it? Is that what?
Yes, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Commissioner Francis?
Yes.
Commissioner Short?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins? Commissioner Miles? Commissioner Estelle?
Yes.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda is the final plat approval for Carriage Place Phase 1.
Thank you. My name's Jay Webb, Central Kentucky Land Surveying. I'd like to start by saying good luck with the short-term rental thing. Go to a lot of planning commissions across the state. It's tough for all of them.
Yeah.
We're here tonight, final plat for Carriage Place subdivision, Phase 1, US 25, Berea Road. A lot of the construction is done, utilities are in, curbs are in. Mr. Grant will address all that. Blacktop's coming soon. We have a final plat that pretty much identically matches the preliminary. We're short one of the CB units, the post office box, the group cluster box. We had multiple phases proposed. Now Phase 1 covers all of that, so we did eliminate one of those just because they're sufficient with the ones we have now. Kevin has looked over it. We've made a few of his changes. Got a couple more today, so I don't think anything major.
Just to add Mr. Webb's presentation, we have worked out most of the plat between us, and it was submitted, we'll say yesterday, and it's quite there. There's nothing wrong with the plat. What we do have to consider would be that the plat's just a tad bit in front of the field work, not nothing detrimental. I have bared witness to an agreement from Allen Company that they will be on site on the 26th to do paving. And Mr. Grant, if you might iterate that would be for all of it or for Phase 1?
Yeah, Allen Company, I've got a contract with them. We're putting the curb and gutter in on Phase 2 right now. So when they enter in there, it'll be, every bit of it will be done, Phase 1 and 2. It'll all be totally blacktops. And I appreciate y'all looking at this, because the biggest concern is the rain killed us last week. So, and then we've got a contract with a national builder that's taken all the R1, and our closing on it was on September the 12th. And which, you know, if you don't approve it tonight, I would ask that you allow me to have a special called meeting, come back in front of you on the 8th, I think, is on that Wednesday. But if you allow it tonight, then Kevin could sign off on it when it was all completed, the blacktop, Because I think, and then the bonded.
What we're here tonight for would be phase one. What Mr. Grant's referring to on the special call is phase two, which is all of the R2, which you don't see here. See all of the line chart and everything up there, that road that heads north there.
Yeah.
That is phase two. So that would be what Mr. Grant would entertain as a special call. For tonight, if we are comfortable with approving the final plat for phase one, we can certainly do so tonight, if you all are comfortable with that. I can add that my field inspectors have kept me up to date to the hour, just so I could stay caught up with Mr. Grant. And with what I viewed and with what I know about the plat, I would feel comfortable in this instance for phase one. Once submission was made, we were still in dirt. And when I say dirt, there was still no rock on phase two. So that's why phase one sort of made it at this time. But it sounds like phase two, it won't be far behind, or will be simultaneous in the field. I believe also you're going to put the final coat on as well. Is that?
Yes. Yep, surface will be done.
So we'll be even further along as far as construction standards. I'll leave it at that. I would feel comfortable, if this body is comfortable, that I can take care of the items needed to get Mr. Grant done within the 30-day period.
Okay. Commissioners? I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve final plat approval for Carriage Place Phase One.
Second.
Thank you.
Commissioner Shu?
Yes.
Commissioner Francis?
Yes.
Commissioner Short?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Miles?
Yes.
Commissioner Estelle?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Director's Report. Oh, we'll make time for it now.
I won't be super fast. Our budget, we're beginning to split up our budgets effectively. They are going to have to be amended, but we do have director of codes in place. We have almost our code enforcement coordinator in place. I'm in place. We only lack one, which will be safety and risk management, but that is soon to be in place, hopefully. We're working with the finance department to get those separated. It's a little bit of a rat's nest, but we're making haste with it. We would probably need to take a look at a streetlight ordinance. Ordinance 412 addresses lighting, but it does not address, other than the fact that we require streetlights. It doesn't say how far apart, lumens, this, that, and the other. The reason that comes up is that a recent conversation with Kentucky Utilities is that they are not so much going to give us the layout anymore due to liability reasons. So what that means is, in the past 13 years that I've been in the city, Kentucky Utilities and others have gave me a layout where street lamps will go. And then I take a look at that, apply some logic, and approve that on an official city scale. That will no longer soon be the case. And KU and some others are starting to decline that role. And either one want a lighting engineer to be in place, which is going to be detrimental to the development process. Or the easy button is for us to do a little legwork and present to you an ordinance to just add to our current lighting ordinances, some spacing requirements, things of that nature, make things very nice that way our typical civil engineer can just apply those standards and we can move forward. The power companies, they plan for it. They build to those locations. It's all in construction documents. Want to brag on Tyler, super fast. Tyler's been working diligently on our development ordinance in its current state, rearranging fixing, incorporating appendices, fixing graphs, fixing grammar. I've singled him out to where that is all he's working on, amongst other things, answering phone, helping folks at the window. But he's doing a great job. He's giving me bits and pieces and things of that nature, and he is doing what he loves. So sooner or later, we're gonna get a very clean development ordinance along with, of course, the ordinances in the future that help issues, along with our short-term rentals, all that stuff will start being integrated into the development. All staff's doing a great job. I can't ask for anything better.
So he's earning his pay other way.
Yeah. He might tell you he's earning a little more. He's gonna advocate for something else, but no, he is, currently, he's a backbone for planning, and, won't deny that. So,
And I suggest we go with the easy route.
Got any other business,
on
Kevin?
the lighting, you know.
That's for a motion.
I'll put together something.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Yes.
Oh, man.